Hi, I'm Amber Blair, and I'm here back in the Dermcast studio with Robert Higham, who's now an Executive Director for Clinical Development. Robert, I'm so excited to talk to you and hear a little bit about your path out of clinic into a different type of career.
Well, I'm excited to chat with you, Amber. It's been an exciting journey, and it's one that maybe is a little atypical for a lot of PAs, especially in dermatology, but one that's really an emerging opportunity, as we see a lot of non-clinical opportunities for PAs outside of their day-to-day clinical practice.
It's really becoming sort of a hot topic now as PAs who have been in clinic for a long time that have this incredible clinical acumen trying to decide what's next, what's my next step? Do I stay in this, or are there other things that I can utilize my background, my knowledge, my degree in to do something a little bit less traditional? I'd love to hear about your path.
Well, my path started as kind of much like everybody else's, just kind of a bread and butter dermatology PA. I practiced for a little over 20 years in the Los Angeles area. I was very active, as you probably know, with SDPA in the very early years and was a past president of the society. So, kind of grew up in my kind of work environment and kind of volunteer environment around industry. Certainly was familiar with the industry from our workings within the SDPA. And it really intrigued me. There's really kind of two sides of industry, right? There's this kind of commercial kind of sales side, and then there's this kind of medical side of things. And there's really opportunities for PAs probably in both, depending on what an individual PA's desire is. There might be a PA that really wants to kind of live in that commercial kind of sales type of a process or organization, and there really it's really about using your skills that you would kind of do every day as a PA. You understand the business models, you understand prescribing habits, you're able to help inform and make business decisions for with companies that you might work for. So that's kind of that side of things. Talking to customers, engaging as maybe a thought leader, liaison, or a professional relations type of individual. And then you have kind of the science side or the medical side of things, where you see a lot of PAs moving into the traditional medical science liaison roles. You see PAs working in kind of speaker, academic type development roles within kind of the medical side of industry. And then you see folks like myself and my colleague Aaron Call that are working in clinical development, which is very unusual and very neat. And I think it really speaks to our value as clinicians. We have value to give. We have that kind of academic acumen and knowledge to be able to bring value to that side of the business as well.
When you were considering jumping out of your traditional clinical setting, how did you decide what direction to jump to and when to make that move?
Yeah, so for me it's kind of an interesting journey. I was very familiar with our kind of principles of our company at the time. I had long-standing relationships with them for a little over 20 years. So it was these deep relationships that I developed early on in my career. These particular individuals worked on very early molecules within the biologic space, and so I kept friendly with them. I kept connected, through our journeys together through dermatology, and I just looked for that right opportunity. You don't necessarily want to jump to the first thing. You want to jump to something that is going to fit you well, that you're going to be able to bring value to. It's one thing to get a job, right? It's kind of like getting a derm PA job somewhere, right? You can probably get a derm PA job pretty easily as an experienced PA, but you want that right job. You don't want to go from a good situation to a worse situation or good to good. You want to make sure that your professional development is kind of on a trajectory up as opposed to a flat line or degrading.
You make a really good point as you consider what professional development might look like in yourself. It's important to consider all of the relationships that you've made and all of the networking that you've done and really capitalize on those relationships over the years so you can make the move, not a move?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really part of, how to do it right. You really have to evaluate first yourself, like, what do you want to do? What interests you? If you're somebody that doesn't particularly like writing, for instance, you probably shouldn't go into a medical publications type of a role. You're not going to learn to love it after, kind of 10, 20 years in a dermatology. That's something that generally is kind of focused on earlier. If you're more of an academic, kind of scientist type of mind, you probably aren't going to like as much, but the commercial sales side of things. You might feel like some of your talents aren't kind of aligned. And so you really got to do that kind of retrospective analysis internally and kind of introspective, I guess, analysis and say, what do I want to do? And then it's a matter of kind of leveraging those relationships, and you kind of let people know what you want to do. You want to hang out with those types of people. You want to go to conferences that those types of people go to and kind of start to make those connections. What would it take? Do you see opportunities? Or is there an opportunity either now or in the future that I should consider or look or watch out for?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the million-dollar question. Do you miss patient care?
Boy, yeah. So I get that often. It's been a little over 3.5 years. I actually don't. I felt like I did everything. I saw everything at least once, in 20 plus years of practicing. And in clinical development in particular, we take that patient care experience is still there, right? So, I'm responsible for programs that now can affect hundreds of thousands, millions of people potentially, as opposed to, a patient, maybe 5,000 patients that I would see in a given year. So you have the opportunity to kind of reach more, which is really exciting, right? And you're in medicine. You're just not hands-on in medicine. We're developing protocols, trying to move molecules from preclinical work to clinical trials and figuring out what would I want if I was in clinic today. That's a lot of our particular group is very rich with clinicians, and it's very atypical. It's not the typical company where we have just one physician or one particular PA in clinical development. We have a group that are all clinicians, and so part of what makes our group work quite well is that ability that we can bring the patient voice, that share of voice of the patient forward, because we all took care of him. We took care of those patients, and we know what gaps were there, what was missing, and so we were able to say, that doesn't seem like that program's going to be as good, or this program, actually that's a home run, let's bring that forward, and let's spend some time and effort on developing that. So that's some of the really fun stuff that you get that's not really directly patient-related, but kind of really is patient-related.
It makes you realize how much experience you have over the years, and if you take that up to a 30,000-foot level, what a difference that you can make and how impactful that can be in a different setting.
Yeah, if you think of all the opportunities that and many of us have all participated in, like advisory boards and work groups and such over at some point during our career, or many of us, I should say. You often give some of those suggestions, right? It's like, why would you develop an ointment instead of a cream? Or why would you do a solution instead of a lotion, or this or that? And it's really fun now to be on the other side of going, totally agree with that. Let's forget that. We don't want to do that. Nobody's going to use that. We want to do something here, or bring a particular molecule that you're interested in forward that maybe is a little bit more validated, that's more well understood, that has a bit more of a safety profile, and so that's kind of fun.
So now that we know that there's all of these potential opportunities outside of the traditional clinic setting, what would you say, or what would your recommendations be, your advice be for anyone that's considering this move and how they can make it a successful progression in their career?
Yeah, I think reach out to the people that are doing it. There's not a lot of us, I'm not going to lie. There's probably, you can probably count on both hands the number of derm PAs that are working in industry in various kind of kind of roles, right?
But more than none, which is what it was before.
More than none, right. So I think finding those individuals, identifying them, coming up to people at conferences, scouring business sites like LinkedIn, looking at, asking companies, asking reps like, hey, do you guys employ any dermatology PAs at XYZ company? What do they do? How do you utilize them? And then trying to network and get to those people. I think that's really how you can do the due diligence and kind of figure out like, gosh, that's something that I'm interested in.
I love that. I think all of this is incredibly valuable information, advice, tidbits to help anybody that's really looking to make that jump and make it a successful one.
Yeah, I think, all of the folks that are doing this now are really, I could speak to all of them. They're happy to kind of mentor, and we're always willing to help people and answer questions and let people know, like, how did we do it? How do we get there? And so really, it's just a matter of take that, self-identify yourself and kind of let us know. And, we can often help you kind of find a direction or roles that might be appropriate for that particular skill set.
Well, personally, I'd like to offer a big shout out and thank you to you and everyone else that's sort of pioneering this pathway. And I'm excited to see how many other people decide that there's something that they can add value to outside of the clinic.
Okay, I'm happy to do it, and thanks for having us and having me in particular here in Durhamcast Studios. Kind of fun being back, and looking forward to many more years to come.
Robert, always a pleasure to hang out and talk with you. It's great to have you back in the studio. It's great for me to be back in the studio, too.
Yes.
We figured out how to make it work again.
We did. Thanks for having us.
This is Amber Blair again. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you gained something from this conversation on clinical career development.